Okay, we'd like to open it up to the floor if there are any questions on those two presentations by Pascal and Sophie. So do we have any takers? We don't have a roving mic, we have a stationary mic. So we'll expect roving questionnaires, if that's possible.
Well, Sophie, you asked for questions when you mentioned the directionary. Maybe you can tell us something more about it.
So it was about the... Thank you for the question. I see that you're all so passionate about EU directives. So it was about the Equal Treatment Directive. It's a directive that was proposed in 2008 by the European Commission. The aim of the directive, which is a draft, it has not been adopted, was to prohibit discrimination in the areas outside employment on the grounds of sexual orientation, religion, disability, and age. So, of course, it would help tackling school bullying. The directive has not been adopted so far, and we will celebrate its 5th anniversary on the 2nd of July. So in 2 weeks, it will be the 5th anniversary of this draft directive that has been blocked by member states, actually. So the European Parliament voted in favor of the directive, but we need unanimity at the Council to see the directive adopted. And unfortunately, Germany has put its veto on this directive, but it's probably not the only one. If it was not for Germany to block it, it would probably be for the Czech Republic or another country. I have to say that the Irish Presidency has done really a great work on this directive. They have really proposed many clarifications, formulations to make progress on this text. But the directive won't be adopted before the end of this legislature. So we very much hope that the European Commission will, that the text will remain on the agenda of the EU. I know that it's very EU jargon, and it's very difficult to convince people when we speak in terms of directive. It does not look very sexy, but the thing is that this text would change the life of LGBTI people in Europe if it was adopted. I mean, it's just as simple as that. For many countries, like I'm thinking about Lithuania and Greece, it would just change their life because those countries would be obliged to adopt anti-discrimination legislation in line with European standards. So that's why I wanted to mention this text.
It's a very critical point. I think sometimes we lose sight that people are at different stages in relation to this issue, so that's crucial, absolutely. Okay, we have another question from a gentleman midway down.
Hi, I'm Miguel from ILGA-Europe. Regarding the Youth in Action program, or whatever it evolves in the next terms, I would really like to emphasize the importance of the priorities that are set up, and I would like to have a compromise that LGBT or social inclusion will be on the table when they are discussing the next priorities and will not be left aside, because I think it's very important. As you said, it's one of the tools for LGBT people, LGBT youth in Europe to have an opportunity to participate. So it would be a big loss if social inclusion falls from the list of priorities, at least on the European level and hopefully also in national level.
Or maybe you have a specific mention about LGBT.
Thank you for the question and for the opportunity to explain a little bit how we see such a program. We insist always in all our communication on the fact it's a program for all young people, on the one hand, and on the other hand, we do not want to stigmatize any kind of population among young people who may face a difficulty. But while staying on this line, we nevertheless send also the message that a priority should be given to young people who face difficulties of whatever kind, and this will remain for the future. And these difficulties obviously are difficulties that the young people LGBT face, as well as other people. That's why we do not want, it's not a program, to put it simply, for LGBT people. This is not our vision. We really want to have a program which pays a particular attention for the ones who have more difficulties, but being also offered to all young people. And without stigmatizing anybody, keeping the doors open to all kinds of difficulties that people may face. And very concretely, this means that in the assessment of the project that we receive, so the national agencies, a particular support is given to projects tackling such an issue. And it works. We consider that something like 30% of our projects are tackling specific issues. The figures I mentioned are not bad. I mean, if you see that there are so many competing priorities, having close to 200 projects in 5 years dealing with a specific topic is, I think, something which we should obviously improve, but it is not bad, and it will obviously improve in the future because there will be more means, budgetary means. This is, of course, always the budgetary constraints. We have many more projects submitted than the projects which we are able to support. But we consider that this is the good balance that which should be kept. But if you read the proposal of the Commission for the Future Programme, of course, there is again the attention paid to the general, expression that we use, young people with few opportunities, whatever the difficulty is.
Okay, thank you, Pascal. Any other questions? Okay.
I have a question.
Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Absolutely, you
Actually,
can.
it's mostly to Sophie, but maybe it's to Pascal as well. Sophie, in your presentation, you made a point, and I'm kind of paraphrasing you now, you made the point that there needs to be political pressure placed on the Commission, essentially, in order to act on LGBT issues in education. Could you kind of explain that and what role anybody here in this room could play in that?
Thank you. I think the question is also for Pascal. But yes, what I just wanted to say briefly is that again, it's true that there is limited EU competence in the area of education, but there are competences. And as we have seen for Roma issues, for instance, when there was this big reaction of Commissioner Reding, for instance, in the area of rights of Roma people in relation with the measures that were taken in France, we have seen that the European Commission was absolutely able to take a strong voice for Roma people and advance really the rights of Roma people and do concrete actions. So I think that the same can actually happen for LGBTI people. There is competence there. What the European Commission needs is to see really a clear demand from members of the European Parliament, from member states, from the EU presidencies. They need to see a political push, and then they will be able to do some actions. And again, perhaps those actions won't be really legal measures. It may not be legislation, but on non-legislative measures, there are many things that can be done. And in particular, for instance, sharing good practices, because some member states are doing great work, and the European Commission could have a role there in facilitating this sharing of good practices. But for this to happen, we really need to see a political push from MEPs and from member states. And this can happen through civil society organization, of course, because we all have a power in this room. So,
Pascal?
Maybe I take this one. I can only agree. It's why I take the same mic. And I have already answered this question when I say that I see an opportunity, a relevance of trying to put together the youth sector and the school sector on certain issues. For example, this one, it can be reversed. And I see also the interest for school teachers to learn from the ones who practice, who meet young people in other circles, in other circumstances, the youth work, to see how some issues can be dealt with. And I share your view that it's not necessarily only through legislative measures, but through concrete activities. And this common program we will have in the future, I see it as a possibility to support this cross-sectoral approach of a problem which concerns young people because they are young people, not only because they are school pupils. I remember that some years ago there were pilot projects supported when it comes to violence at school, and bullying at school may well be a topic for the future.
Okay, thank you, Pascal. I'm just conscious that Pascal and Sophie have to get the Brussels flight from Dublin Airport at about 6, and having been on it a number of times this year, they would need to be quick and get up there quite promptly. Patrick, Patrick Burke from Youth Work Ireland, do you have a question?
Hi, not so much a question, but a comment on competency again, actually, at EU level. It seems to me that this is a really important topic. We have to remember that for real change to occur, it still has to remain very much, I think, at the nation-state level, because that's where the competency is at, primarily around issues of social inclusion and all that. There aren't the instruments at a European level completely to address this issue. Having said it, I think we need to be hugely strategic. It's very important that we're having discussions at an EU level. I'm conscious of with the Commission and Mr. LeJeune and the Department, and we continue to have conversations with the Commission in relation to youth issues in general. But when it comes to social inclusion, I think the European 2020 vision, the open method of coordination, and the potential of that particular instrument to help further this very important discussion is something we need to be looking at in much more detail and working with people who are very directly involved in that, not specifically around this specific issue of social inclusion, but the broader issue, so that there are many allies in that sector as well that I think we should be naming and identifying. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Patrick. I think that's a very important point, and I think it underscores what was said before about giving things a push. I think that's hugely important, trying to move this from being an event to being an ethos in the way we work. So I think that's crucial, and Michael will talk a bit about that when we come back to him. Can I just say thank you very much to Pascal LeJeune and to Sophie. Help me out, Sophie. Aujean. For their contributions. I think their inputs were both insightful and informative. So can we give a round of applause to Pascal and Sophie?